Overview. In an emergency, oxygen can be provided by 3 separate systems: flight crew oxygen system, passenger oxygen system, portable oxygen system. That completes the overview for oxygen. The next section will cover the general description of the oxygen system. Flight crew oxygen system. The flight crew system comprises a stored high-pressure gaseous supply charged to 1,850 psi. The oxygen cylinder and charging connection are located in the front cargo compartment, immediately forward of the compartment door.
The integrity of the system is indicated by a white translucent disc located in the fuselage skin adjacent to the oxygen cylinder.
The disc will be ejected if pressure reaches 2,800 psi, and oxygen will be discharged overboard via a vent. To bring attention to this, red streamers are released when oxygen is discharged. The supply from the cylinder is routed to a manually operated isolation valve, which regulates main supply pressure to 70 psi.
Where is the ground charging point located? What does the white disc on the fuselage forward of the front cargo door signify?
Supply pressure is shown on an indicator labelled Main Supply, adjacent to the isolation valve. The supply passes to a mask stowage unit in each side console. A third mask stowage unit is installed for an observer. Each mask and stowage unit comprises a rocker switch to control either 100% oxygen or a mixture of oxygen and air, an emergency pressure control knob to provide oxygen at a positive pressure,
Our press to test and reset switch,
a flow indicator, an oxygen on flag, a microphone. When the mask is in use due to lack of oxygen in the cabin, the rocker switch is selected to N, and a demand regulator on each mask will provide a mixture of oxygen and air as it is demanded by the user. If the mask is in use due to smoke in the cabin, the rocker switch must be checked in the 100% position to ensure that smoke is not inhaled. If the demand regulator fails, the emergency pressure control knob may be rotated to the emergency position to provide a permanent positive pressure to the mask. This control may also be pressed to test for oxygen flow before flight. The press to test and reset switch is used to provide oxygen pressure to the mask for testing purposes. The flow indicator shows yellow when oxygen is flowing to the mask, and black when there is no flow. The oxygen on flag indicates that the shut-off valve is open when the door is moved from the open to the closed position.
The integral microphone is selected by placing the boom mask switch on the associated audio selector panel to the mask position. What is the flight crew main system pressure when fully charged?
Passenger and cabin crew oxygen system. Independent dropout units are located throughout the passenger cabin, the cabin attendant stations and the toilets. Each unit comprises either 2, 3 or 4 oxygen masks and a chemical oxygen generator. The door latches for the stowage units are released electrically. When cabin altitude reaches 13,250 feet, release will be signalled automatically.
A manual override is provided from the flight deck by pressing either of the dropout override switches on the left or right side consoles. Passenger oxygen out illuminates when oxygen masks have been released either automatically or manually.
The door latches may also be released mechanically by the use of special keys, which are stored at each cabin attendant's seat stowage. When the door opens, the masks within each unit drop out. The action of pulling each mask starts the chemical reaction within each unit to produce oxygen. Sufficient oxygen will be generated for a minimum of 15 minutes use. A green indicator on each mask tube indicates the flow of oxygen to its respective mask. The door of each stowage unit is equipped with a door stop test lever for maintenance purposes. When this lever is set to the vertical position, it allows the latch to operate and release the door, but prevents the door from opening fully and ejecting the oxygen masks. The lever must be reset to its normal position, flush with the door after maintenance.
What protection is provided for the passengers in the event of cabin depressurization in flight?
Portable equipment. Portable oxygen sets are provided to enable the cabin staff to move about the aircraft in the event of depressurization. These sets can also be used for therapeutic and first aid purposes. Each set contains an oxygen bottle in a carrying bag. A control knob marked off, medium and high supplies oxygen at a positive pressure at the indicated rate. Duration is 50 minutes at medium and 30 minutes at high. A contents gauge gives an indication of oxygen remaining. That completes the general descriptions for the oxygen system. The next section covers the external checks. External checks.
On completion of this section, you will be able to carry out the external checks associated with the oxygen system.
Check that the oxygen overboard vent discharge disc is intact. That completes the external checks for the oxygen system. Pre-flight. In this section, we will work through the pre-flight normal operating procedures related to the oxygen system. The system main valve is opened and system contents are checked on the main supply pressure indicator.
On the audio selector panel, the boom mask switch is set to mask and the RT intercom switch to intercom.
On the mask unit, the press to test and reset switch is pressed and the flow indicator shows yellow momentarily. Simultaneously, as the emergency pressure control knob is pressed, check the flow indicator shows yellow and the flow of oxygen is heard in the overhead speaker. The press to test and reset is released. The normal 100% switch is at 100% and the boom mask switch is returned to boom.
How is the pilot's oxygen mask removed from its stowage? How is flow to a pilot's oxygen mask tested?
Post-flight. After the last flight of each day, the main valve is turned fully off. That now completes the section on normal operations. The next section will cover the emergency situations requiring the use of the oxygen system. Smoke or fire on the flight deck or in the cabin. In this section, we will look at emergency situations which require use of the oxygen system. If there is smoke or fire in the flight deck or in the cabin, oxygen masks must be donned as soon as possible. Select Boom Mask on the audio selector panel to mask.
Remove the headset, grip the oxygen mask by the red plates and remove from the stowage box. Ensure that the normal 100% switch is at 100%.
Gripping the red plates inflates the harness, which is then placed over the head. The control plates are then released. The oxygen shuts off and the harness deflates to grip the head. The action of setting boom mask to mask also permanently selects the speaker on, but the headset may be replaced if desired. Communication should be established with the other crew member by normal use of the intercom switch on the control hand wheel. Loss of cabin pressure.
If there is a loss of pressure in the cabin, the mask should be donned as normal, but the normal 100% switch may be placed to normal in order to breathe an oxygen-air mix and so extend the duration of the supply.
After monitoring the cabin altitude and rate of climb, if the passenger oxygen out annunciators are not lit by 13,500 feet, the left or right drop-out override buttons are pressed. After the passenger oxygen out annunciators have been lit, establish flight at 14,000 feet or below within 5.5 minutes. And 10,000 feet or below within 13 minutes.
That completes the description and operation of the oxygen system.